The flood that science can't find, the mystery of Noah's Ark and the search for a global deluge. What if one of the most famous stories ever told left no trace in the rocks beneath our feet? A flood so vast that it covered the entire world. Mountains disappearing beneath the water. Every land submerged. Human civilization wiped away. And one vessel carrying the survivors of all life on Earth. For thousands of years, the story of Noah's Ark has been one of humanity's most enduring narratives. But when scientists began searching for evidence of a worldwide flood, they encountered a surprising problem. The Earth does not seem to remember it. The story that shaped civilizations. According to Genesis, humanity had become corrupt. God decided to send a flood that would destroy all life on Earth. Only Noah, his family, and representatives of the world's animals would survive aboard a massive ark. Rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. The waters rose until even the highest mountains were covered. After many months, the waters receded and humanity would begin again. For centuries, many people accepted the account as literal history. If such an event truly occurred, scientists reasoned, it should have left unmistakable evidence across the globe. So they began looking. The geological investigation. The first question was simple. If a worldwide flood covered every continent, what traces should remain? Geologists expected to find a global layer of sediment deposited at roughly the same time around the Earth. But after more than a century of geological research, no such global layer has been discovered. Instead, Earth's geological record reveals a far more complex history. Different rock layers formed at different times and under different conditions. The evidence points toward processes occurring over vast spans of time rather than one recent worldwide flood. For many scientists, this became one of the strongest challenges to the traditional interpretation of Noah's flood. Fossils and the problem of time. Scientists also examined the fossil record. If every living creature perished in a single flood event, researchers expected evidence of a sudden global catastrophe. Instead, fossils appear in a highly ordered sequence throughout Earth's rock layers. Marine organisms appear in different layers than dinosaurs. Dinosaurs appear in different layers than mammals. This pattern is difficult to reconcile with the idea that all organisms were buried simultaneously during one flood. Most geologists conclude that the fossil record reflects long geological processes rather than a single worldwide deluge. The search for the Ark. But what about Noah's Ark itself? Could the vessel still exist? For generations, explorers have searched the slopes of Mount Ararat in modern-day Turkey. One of the most famous claims emerged from the Durupener Formation, a site whose shape resembles a large boat. Researchers conducted surveys, radar scans, and geological studies. However, most geologists concluded that the formation is a natural geological feature rather than the remains of a wooden vessel. Despite decades of investigation, no verified remains of Noah's Ark have been found. A different clue emerges. While evidence for a global flood remains elusive, scientists did discover something interesting. Ancient Mesopotamia experienced several large and devastating floods. Archaeological excavations at sites such as Uar, Kish, and Shuruppak uncovered evidence that major floods affected parts of the region thousands of years ago. These floods were not global, but they were enormous from the perspective of the people who experienced them. To survivors, it might have seemed as though the entire world had disappeared beneath the waves. The Mesopotamian connection. This discovery led scholars to another intriguing possibility. Long before Genesis was written, Mesopotamian civilizations recorded flood stories of their own. The most famous appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In that story, a man is warned of a coming flood, builds a large boat, preserves animals, and releases birds after the waters recede. The similarities have fascinated historians for decades. Some scholars propose that memories of ancient regional floods influenced later flood traditions throughout the ancient Near East. What does science actually say? So where does the evidence lead? Modern geology has not found scientific evidence for a single worldwide flood occurring within the timeframe traditionally associated with Noah. No global sediment layer has been identified. No geological record confirms the submersion of all continents at one time. No verified remains of Noah's Ark have been discovered. At the same time, archaeology and geology have uncovered evidence of significant regional floods in Mesopotamia. These events were real and may help explain why flood stories became so important across ancient cultures. Conclusion: the story of Noah's flood remains one of the most influential narratives in human history. But from a scientific perspective, the evidence tells a different story. Not a global flood that covered the entire Earth, but a world shaped by many floods, many disasters, and many memories. And perhaps that is why the mystery endures. Did the flood happen exactly as described? Or does the story preserve the memory of a catastrophe so powerful that it was remembered for millennia? The search for the answer continues.